Millennials and Gen Zers are just lazy and they don't want to work. Am I right? Well, at least that's the stereotype that we're all led to believe. Well, let me pose this question. Do you think two entire generations just suddenly became lazy? Or have we slowly eliminated the potential upside of hard work to the point where there's not really any benefit to working any harder, at least not as somebody else's employee? Today on Twitter, I saw this tweet from Amy Nixon at Texas Runner DFW. By the way, that is a fantastic Twitter feed, especially for real estate. I highly recommend you follow her. And Amy makes some observations here about what Gen Zers in particular are facing. She says, our current U.S. economic reality has led to massive polarization in Gen Z. Your options are A, hustle culture, work more, 3 side hustles, the system sucks, but I can win at it. And the other option is apathy culture. Quiet quit, stay in mom's basement, the system sucks, I'm not participating. By the way, first things first, enough bad-mouthing people who live in mom's basement. Making the decision to live at home is a hard one for a lot of millennials and Gen Zers. It saves a lot of cash. There's probably going to be a lot of people a few years from now who wish they had spent some time living in mom's basement so they could afford to buy a house. But if you are living in mom's basement, your butt better be paying rent. And if you're not paying rent, you sure as heck better be helping out around the house. Give that woman a hug and a kiss. She deserves it. She is helping you out a lot. Now, for option B there, I've actually seen that a lot even with some of my friends in Gen X. They've just thrown in the towel. It doesn't matter how hard I work. It's just going to make some rich guy richer, and then they're going to crash the markets and steal all my money, or the banks are going to take my money. Now, a lot of that is based in reality, and there is some truth to it, but a lot of it is also just an excuse for not trying. We don't do that here. But might I suggest a third option, option C? And it's a little bit of a blend of A and B. And my option C would be quiet quitting and hustle culture. Now, bear with me for a second. I'm not saying go quit your job and take up your side hustle full time. I mean, who does that, right? But what I am saying is quiet quitting, it shouldn't have the negative connotation that it has. Quiet quitting is a phenomenon where employees do the bare minimum at their job, just enough to not get fired and still collect a paycheck. Now, while that may sound sleazy to some people, let's be honest, folks, it's actually not that bad of a deal for the employers. Now, check out this chart right here. This is real earnings growth year over year. Shout out to Invariant Perspectives on Twitter who posted this chart today. We're looking at 22 consecutive months of negative real wages, where the cost of living has risen faster than the average paycheck. 22 consecutive months. That is the lives of Americans, especially Gen Z and millennials, getting more difficult. Now, let me ask you this question. If inflation was 0% right now, and your boss were to tell you, we're going to give you a 10% pay cut, do you think you'd be out looking for another job? Or at the very least, would you feel like you need to work harder for that guy? Almost certainly not. Well, guess what? That is exactly what has happened to the average American for the last 2 years. Inflation has far outpaced the rate of wage gains, and so the average American is getting poorer staying at their job right now. And so quiet quitting is the phenomenon where people don't work any harder for a boss that's not paying them anymore. Look, earning a wage is a transaction. You're trading your time and your effort for money. And if they're paying less for your time and effort, why on earth would you give more effort if you're not going to get any more pay for it? But hold on a second. I'm not saying do less work for your employer and do nothing else with that extra time and energy. What you need to do if you want to get ahead, you need to put that time and energy into yourself. You need to start a side hustle. You need to start a business. And this is why I have been pounding the table on side hustles and starting your own business so much on this channel recently. WTF happened in 1971.com. I double dog dare you to go to that website and look at some of the charts they have here. This is the big one, though. Since 1971, the gap between compensation and productivity has exploded in the United States. And this is the wage gap, folks. This is why the ownership class has all the wealth and the average wage earner has none of it. Would you rather be collecting the productivity that's up 246%, or would you rather be collecting the compensation that's up less than half that? Well, if your primary income is earning a wage right now, you live on this red line, which means no matter how hard you work, guess what? You're not getting anywhere. But if you do work harder, you will drive up this other line here and your boss will get richer. That's why I'm saying you need to take the C option, which is a combination of A and B in Amy Nixon's tweet. You need to do the quiet quitting. Don't put in any more effort for this. You need to use that extra effort to start a side hustle so that you can start living up here. That's where you want to be. And to all you baby boomers who are saying the millennials and the Gen Zers are just lazy, well, that's easy for you guys to say, because remember, you spent most of your working lives over there in the 60s, 70s, 80s, back when the two lines were pretty much in agreement, where if you worked harder, both you and your boss saw the benefit. Well, starting in 1971, when the U.S. went off the gold standard, that's when the cycle of financial repression started suppressing wages and driving up the value of the assets in the ownership class. Now, the Gen Xers are about halfway to 3/4 of the way to retirement. They've spent most of their life watching this gap widen. Now they're realizing, oh my God, what happened? I should have started a business back when I had a chance. The millennials and the Gen Zers are coming into the workforce right here saying, I'm not playing at their stupid game. And keep in mind, the most powerful people in the world right now are doing everything in their power to make the gap between these two lines even bigger. Jerome Powell has said he needs to prevent wages from growing. That's how he wants to fight inflation. And he's going to crash the economy to do it. He's going to do everything in his power to keep this red line right where it is. Meanwhile, all of the inflation has driven up the value of that line. Again, you need to take the C option in Amy Nixon's tweet. You need to quiet quit down here, keep earning that paycheck, but use that extra time and effort to earn yourself a place at the table up here. That is how winning is done in this economy. And look, folks, it's not just about escaping the cycle of wage suppression. Remember, the tax code is written by the ownership class for the ownership class. The tax code is all about taking advantage of the wage earners while giving the business owners a break. So which do you want to be, the wage earner or the business owner? That's something Robert Kiyosaki talks an awful lot about in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is why it is on my recommended reading list, and the affiliate link is down below in the description should you feel so inclined. So you millennials and you Gen Zers out there, it is not just down to a choice between stay on the hamster wheel, run as hard as you can to make some other guy rich, or just give up and be poor. Those are not your only options. You can do option C, which is deny your employer additional energy and effort in exchange for nothing, and instead use your own energy to benefit yourself by developing a side hustle, starting a business, and let the tax code work to your advantage for a change, all while ensuring 100% of the benefit goes to you and not to your employer. So once again, shout out to Amy Nixon for a very thought-provoking tweet today. Shout out to you Gen Zers and you millennials. You guys have the deck stacked against you, but you are not going to give up. You are going to get ahead. If I was in your shoes, I would choose option C, all of the above. Quiet quit, stay in mom's basement, give mom a hug, say thank you, pay a little bit of rent, help out around in the house, but also work that side hustle, start your own business, escape into the ownership class where the tax code can work to your advantage and you get to keep all the benefits of your hard work. And until next time, live small and dream big.